The Mets take care of the Nationals in a 3-game set to go to 45-24. They are now winners of 6 consecutive games. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 27-7 at home this year, and they are 5.5 games up in the NL East over the Phillies. Best record in baseball. I mean, you can keep going on at this point. Some big series from some offensive guys here. We had Juan Soto, who looks like he's completely back at this point. He's hitting extra base hits. Yes, he's striking out a little bit, but his numbers are improving. He's got 13 home runs on the year now, and in this series he went 5 for 11, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Really good series. Nimmo, 5 for 11, 3 home runs in this series. McNeil, 4 for 11, a home run, and 5 RBI. So really good performances out of them, and they've needed it because since Lindor has been, since he broke his toe, he has not been as effective. I know there's been a game here, and he had that clutch hit in his first at bat off the bench, but he hasn't looked the same since breaking his toe. It's understandable. He's clearly not 100% right now, and it's showing. You're getting some contributions from the bottom of the order, but not very much. It's really been the top guys. It's been, for most of the season, obviously Alonso, and now Soto's getting into the act. Nimmo's getting into it. They're just kind of hitting on all cylinders right now, and I'm really happy about the way the offense has been performing. But the biggest star of this series, to me, is easily David Peterson. In Game 2, he got his first complete game shutout, his first complete game as a major leaguer. He went 9 innings, obviously. He scattered 6 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts, and he lowered his season ERA to 2.49. We're really seeing something out of Peterson that, honestly, personally, I didn't think existed. Since last year, he's been one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. You can say what you want about his baseball savant numbers, and he's not statistic or analytically maybe the best pitcher around or the best lefty in baseball, but his numbers show that he's one of the top guys. So over the last year, he's one of the top left-handers in baseball. You just have to say it at this point. It was a completely efficient game. He kept his pitch count down. I think he threw less than 110 pitches. He just did everything he had to do to give his bullpen a little bit of rest, and can't say enough about his performance. Now, I'm not going to get too crazy. It was a sweep of the Nationals. It's a team that they should beat, but they have problems with the Nationals in the past. We've seen that this year, last year. They've just struggled with the Nationals. It's an in-division, series, and those can get tough no matter who you're playing against, no matter what the other team's record is. And the Nationals didn't come in as a bottom-dwelling team. They were 5 games under 500 coming into this series. They have James Wood, who looks like he's turning into a superstar. We faced their best pitcher. There were things that lined up where maybe the Mets take 2 out of 3 or who knows, maybe even lose 2 out of 3, but they were able to sweep the series, and that's what good teams do. When you play a lower-end team, it's what you have to do, and they took care of business. But there was some bad out of the series, and really it's that we lost Kodai Senga. We don't know for how long. He obviously injured his hamstring on that awkward throw by Pete Alonso while he was covering first base. He tried to say after the game, or he let his translator know to tell Pete that it wasn't Pete's fault and that it was, he heard it before he had to jump for the throw. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Pete knows he has to be better on those throws. I feel really bad for him. I'm not going to put all the blame on him, but I mean, without him offensively, the Mets are not as good this season. Let's face it, he carried the team for a lot of this season by himself offensively. But he's got a little bit of the yips throwing to first base and throwing in general. We remember that throw home that he just completely airmailed earlier this season. He's not able to make those throws right now. It's in his head. Hopefully he gets that out of his head and can get back to doing what he can do. Although that's always been kind of an issue for him his whole career. Those easy throws, those soft underhanded throws to first base have always been an issue for him. So the bigger issue is obviously Senga being out. We don't know the severity of the injury. He's getting an MRI today to let us know how long he's going to be out or, what the grade is of the strain. But with Senga, it's always longer than it's initially, thought of. He's the kind of guy who has to feel perfect to go out there and pitch, and until he feels perfect, he's not going to go on rehab. He's not going to start throwing. He kind of makes his own decisions when it comes to his health and his injuries. So I don't know how long Senga's going to be out, but I would expect it to be longer than you would see normally with a pitcher, he makes his own schedule when it comes to injuries, and he's very particular about the way he feels and the way his mechanics are, and he's not going to start throwing until he feels like he's ready, and that's how Senga's always been, something you have to deal with. But the good thing for the Mets is that they have built depth. You see, after the game, they haven't announced, but it was reported that Kranick is being called up for Senga to go on the injured list, and that Blackburn is most likely going to take Senga's spot in the rotation. Kranick will be back in the bullpen. The Mets have depth, and they have people coming back. So this isn't the end of the world like I've seen from a lot of Met fans. Met fans are saying the season's ruined, and how could we recover for this? We didn't have Senga all of last year, and they were just fine, and we have a better pitching staff this year. So yes, it's a big loss because Senga has an ERA under 1.5 this year, and he's clearly been pitching like an ace and pitching like the closest thing to an ace that the Mets have. But we can live without him. That's why Stearns built this pitching depth, and I'm going to trust him. Now, when we talk about guys on their way back, you have to talk about first Frankie Montas. Obviously, he's a guy that a lot of Met fans were upset that we signed. Baseball people were saying it was a mistake, giving him $17 million and blah, blah, blah. He's been bad. But he is on his way back from injury, and after hurting himself in spring training, he has not pitched yet for the Mets this year. And honestly, I'm going to give Stearns and Jeremy Hefner the benefit of the doubt here. I'm not a huge fan of Frankie Montas, didn't love the signing, but the Mets have shown this year that you can go out and get pitchers who have struggled, who maybe have good stuff, but maybe don't have the right pitch mix or don't, aren't pitching the way that they should be, and fixing them and turning them into something. Look at Griffin Canning, look at turning Clay Holmes into a starter. Look at what they did with Sean Manaea last year, or Luis Severino, who since he's left has not been very good, for the A's. I think the Mets just have something a little bit different in terms of their pitching development and pitching lab. So until Frankie Montas or David Stearns or Jeremy Hefner proves me wrong, I'm always going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say, hey, they see something in Montas. They think that he can really contribute as a starting pitcher to this team. He has struggled, obviously, in his rehab starts so far. In only, I think, 9 innings, he has a 9 ERA and 8 walks. Like, he has not looked good. But I don't look at rehab starts as, I don't look at them as performance. I don't look at the performance of them. What I look at is just a guy getting healthy and getting in baseball shape. And, he did look out of shape when he first started his rehab starts, seeing some of the video from them. So he's clearly not in baseball shape. They asked Mendoza, is he getting one more rehab start? Is it 2? Mendoza said it's at least 1 more, maybe 2. So I wouldn't expect to see him for probably 10 days to 2 weeks. He's still a couple weeks away at this point. Possibly. I mean, he could go out there and impress in his rehab start, and they say, oh, he's ready to come up. But it looks like he's probably going to get 2 more starts. So still a couple weeks away. The Mets can live off what they have. You keep Blackburn in the rotation. I don't think you're really losing much going from, possibly having Montas to having Blackburn. Now you are losing a lot going from Senga to Blackburn, but Blackburn's a professional pitcher. That's why you have guys like this on the team and in the organization for when you have injuries. The Mets finally have depth. And then obviously after Montas, probably another couple of weeks after him, you have Sean Manaea, who's started rehab games. I think he's had 2 starts so far in the minors for Brooklyn, and he has not performed well either. I think he had 1 bad start and 1 good start. Again, don't care about the results. He just needs to get back into shape, back to, feeling good about his stuff, getting his fastball velocity up, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not worried about the results, but that's going to be a huge boost. Obviously, we don't know how long Senga's going to be out for, but if it's going to be a month or 2, like it probably will be, because it's Senga no matter what, even if they say it's a low-grade strain and he'll be out 2 to 4 weeks, I still wouldn't expect to see him for 2 months because he needs to rehab, and he might not feel good after 2 or 3 weeks, and he might want an extra week or 2 before he starts getting on a program. So it's important that we have these guys coming back, and it's really important that we have this depth built in the organization. So I'm really not concerned about the Senga injury long term. It might actually be a help. If you look down the road, the less innings that Senga pitches throughout the year, as long as he comes back at the end of the year and gets a few starts under his belt before the playoffs, I don't mind having a fresh arm, a fresh Senga going into the playoffs. Obviously, the Mets still have to make it there. They look like they're in good shape now. It's not over. They're not a lock at this point. But having a guy in Senga who doesn't have a lot of innings on his arm this year, will that really be the worst thing in the world? Sean Manaea getting injured and missing a huge part of the early season, his arm's going to be fresher going into the playoffs. Montas, his arm will be fresher going into the playoffs. So those guys you might see regress, like a Griffin Canning or a Clay Holmes, who's never thrown this amount of innings in a season, well, now you have guys who are fresh. So as those guys are kind of falling off, you have guys ascending. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. So I'm looking at this in the positive way. We'll see what happens. But as of right now, I'm not very concerned because no matter who the Mets put in there, they seem to perform well. Now, another thing that this could make possible going forward is, we have some guys in the minor leagues who have been performing well all year. Whether it's McNeil or Tong, those guys look like they're really close, especially McNeil. Tong is still at Double-A. He's probably still got some seasoning. He's a little bit younger. But Nolan McNeil has looked great in Double-A and now Triple-A so far this year. I don't know that he really has much left to prove in the minors. He's down there basically at this point, I think, getting a little bit more seasoning and just waiting for his opportunity. I think McNeil is very close to coming up. If the Mets get another injury, or maybe if Montas or Manaea has a setback and maybe they're out, it adds a couple more weeks onto their time, I could definitely see one of those guys, especially McNeil, being called up. McNeil so far this year, in four starts at AAA, has a 2.5 ERA in 32 innings. He's got 32 strikeouts in those 32 innings, so he's performing well in AAA. And AAA is a place where a lot of good prospects kind of get hit hard. It's a place that it's very run conducive. A lot of runs are scored in AAA. The offense is generally ahead of the pitching. A lot of the best pitchers come from Double-A, or that's where they perform the best. And McNeil's performed well at both. So I could definitely see McNeil up at some point if the Mets have another injury or there's a setback with either Montas or Manaea. I think you could see McNeil take that next, like the Christian Scott of last year, where he makes that jump and comes to the majors and kind of forces his way into the plans. Another guy is Brandon Sproat. Now, before the season, he was the Mets' best pitching prospect. I think he's been passed at this point by McNeil because he just has not performed in AAA. He's got a 5.3 ERA in AAA this year. In 57 innings pitched, he's given up 26 walks and only 41 strikeouts, and he's getting hit on his fastball. From what I hear, I'm not a scout. I'm not a coach. I don't know all the ins and outs of the analytics and all that, but from what I hear, his fastball is very straight, doesn't have a good, path, and it's getting hit very hard in AAA. So that doesn't really bode well. He throws hard, but if you throw hard and straight, you can still get hit hard. So, look at Stanek, right? He throws incredibly hard, but if he's not pinpoint with his accuracy, he's going to get hit hard because everyone can hit 100 miles an hour. It's not a big deal in the major leagues anymore. So, I worry a little bit that maybe Sproat was overrated for us, but he's still young. We could still, and he probably might even still be the next guy up just because of his age and how far along he was. But at this point, I think McNeil has taken over that spot. Tong would be a dark horse. He's a lot younger than those guys. He's only in Double-A at this point. I don't really see him being a part of this team this year. But if he continues to pitch this well at Double-A, I can see a move to AAA, and then if he performs well there, he puts himself into the conversation because of performance and because of the stuff. I think if you look at what they have, he probably has the best stuff of all three. He's just probably a year behind those guys. So the Mets have options. For the first time in a long time, the Mets have pitching prospects and some hitting prospects, and they have a good major league team already. So it's that mix of, do we need them? Are they ready? Can we fit them in? Can we get them enough at-bats? Can we get them enough appearances? I don't know how it's all going to work out, but it's great to have those options. It's great to finally feel like you have a minor league system that can contribute, in the upper minor leagues, where if a guy goes down, you can replace them. So that's a very nice feeling to have, and it's going to make a lot of difficult questions for David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza, and that's a good thing. You want them to have those decisions to make. So really excited about having all of these options in the rotation and just for the team in general. All right, and next we have the Rays coming in starting tonight. The Rays come in at 36 and 32. That's good for third place in the AL East. They're 6.5 games back of the Yankees in that division, and they're kind of a middle of the road team in a lot of categories this year. But the Rays are always a tough matchup. They're a team that fights. They're a team that always outperforms their talent level. They have good management. They just know how to build a team that's at least pesky. Every year they're going to fight you. And I never really like matching up against the Rays just because they're one of those annoying teams that just always seems to beat the Mets, always seems to play them well. They come from behind. They're not afraid. And this is a different Rays team than we've seen in the past, but they're still 36 and 32, and a lot of people maybe thought that they weren't going to be that good this year, maybe below 500 kind of season for them, and they've overperformed a little bit. But if you look offensively, they're very middle of the road in most statistics. So OPS, they got a 700 OPS, that's good for 17th. They got a 245 batting average, that's 16th. They have 71 home runs, that's 15th. And they've scored 301 runs, and that's good for 12th. So very middle of the road, average kind of offensive team, led by Jonathan Aranda. He's batting 314 this year with an 878 OPS. He's got seven home runs, 36 RBIs. Junior Caminero, he's got a 776 OPS with 15 home runs and 41 RBIs. Brandon Lowe, 742, 13 home runs, 36 RBIs. Those are kind of their offensive leaders. Nobody jumps off the page, except for maybe Aranda with a 314 batting average, 878 OPS. It's a very good season. Not a ton of power, 7 home runs. But like I said, very middle of the road kind of average hitting team. Pitching-wise, they're a little bit better. They do have the 8th best ERA in baseball at 3.54, and they've given up the least amount of walks in the league. They've given up 178 walks, and their best pitcher so far has been Drew Rasmussen. He's got a 2.2 ERA in 69 innings pitched, and he's got a .9 whip, so he gives up less than a base runner per inning. Very, very solid right there. Very good, actually, not just solid. And the Mets will face him in Game 2 of this series. In Game 1 tonight, we have Holmes going up against Taj Bradley. Bradley has a kind of a 4.5 ERA, been pretty average this year. Game 2, McGill versus Rasmussen. As we said, Rasmussen in the second game. McGill trying to kind of get back on track. Good start, bad start, couple bad starts. McGill's just is what he is at this point. You never know. And then Canning versus Baz in this third game. Canning has an opportunity to kind of get back on track after a bad start against the Nationals. Hopefully he can. He's been great all year. But, 2 of his last 3 starts have not been great. Maybe he's, kind of coming back to his averages a little bit. He's obviously not as bad as he was last year, where he had a 5.5 ERA. But you weren't going to expect dominance in a sub-3 ERA for him necessarily all season. He's kind of reverting back to a little bit closer, probably somewhere between where he was in the beginning of the season and where he was last year, which is probably just an average pitcher. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he continues to be great, and it was just a little blip on the radar. But we've said that a couple times now, especially against some bad teams. He's had a bad start against the White Sox and a bad start against the Nationals. He just hasn't been as sharp and as good lately as he was early in the season. Still have hope for him, still think he could be good, but he obviously just has not been the same. So overall, Mets are in a very good position now, being 21 games over 500. You can afford to lose a game here and there, but I'd love to see them keep the streak going. 6 in a row. Let's go for 9 in a row. Let's sweep the Rays, right? Mets are great at home, 27-7. Why not? You can start to think things like that when they perform this well at home. Hopefully Soto can stay hot. There was that host on WFAN who basically said he's not all the way back unless he does this against the Rays as well. Whatever, we know he's back. You see him. He looks comfortable. He looks confident. He's got that swagger back. McNeil, if he can keep it going, McNeil has been great the last month or so. At least this month, he's been awesome. He's been maybe their best hitter so far this month behind Soto. Nimmo's been getting a lot of home runs lately. He's been hitting for more power. If Lindor can get it back going, I know the toe's probably bothering him, but if he can get it back going, the Mets can really take off here. Maybe get a little more production from the bottom of the order. At this point, We don't know what we're getting out of Alvarez. Terens has been better, but even Terens has been struggling lately. Tyrone Taylor has been giving great defense. That big catch yesterday against the Nationals was great to see, but he hasn't been giving you that much offensively. We need to start seeing the bottom of the order hit. Beatty's back to being cold. It just hasn't. They haven't looked very cohesive at the bottom of the order. It's all been coming from the top. And listen, they have a good top of the order, so if that continues, they can still win a lot of games, but eventually you're going to need to see those guys start to hit. But anyway, very confident in this team, even with the loss of Senga. No matter how long it is, they have the depth to overcome it, and I think that they will. But yeah, that's really all I got today. Hopefully we get at least 2 out of 3 here from the Rays. But until next time, let's go Mets.